All right. We are live on episode, I believe, 17 of the Blue Crocus Experience. I'm here with Parker Perrien of Diamond Solutions, and he's going to drop some value of how they've kind of grown and developed their business over the past few years, and hopefully people will be able to take some value from that as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, if you want to dive in and tell us a bit about yourself. This is our first time chatting in person, so we were chatting a little bit off mic there, figuring out our audio and everything. But if you want to introduce yourself, tell us where you're located, what you're up to, and kind of take it from there.
Yeah. So I live in Midland, Michigan, and I mean, I guess Diamond is kind of what we're here for. So I'll start with that. 2008, Diamond was started by my father, and we worked together pretty much, through the summers and the fall, patching potholes. And we worked together for about 4 years off and on. I went to college and would come back from college and work and go to college and make a few bucks an hour, in the dining common, serving food. I think it was like $8 an hour. I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And then go back home and make really good money with my dad. And then I started striping parking lots, kind of was my avenue off. I didn't really realize that at the time, but it was one of my best friends randomly, they had a parking lot striper, and he's like, hey, you can have it if you want. I was like, what? So, fixed it all up, got this thing going, and I was like, hey, Dad, if I buy the paint and I do it, can I make the profit? He said, sure. So that was kind of the beginning, I think, of that mindset, and that I should say at the beginning, because I think it was, if you look back through my earlier years, it was kind of an entrepreneurial mindset of always taking something and turning it into a way to make money, was just kind of happened.
Sure.
So we patched potholes, we used a system that I think the first year, everything we did did not hold. Thankfully we didn't do a lot of work the first year. So
that was your ongoing business plan, right? So they just keep calling you back.
Exactly. No. Yeah. So we ended up getting into infrared repair, which is just using heat to recycle the asphalt, and it's pretty cool. We still do it today. It's a great, has a great profit margin, a great niche in the market for certain customers. So anyway, so we started that, and that was the beginning. And then we started, subbing out some seal coating work, and eventually just kind of hey, why don't we just do it ourselves? And I was doing the striping. And for whatever reason, though, I think one of the big things is I got a contract painting 200 CVS pharmacies on the East Coast. And I bought my dad, again, he helped me. We bought a trailer and stripers, and I just went and got this truck and just hopped in it and just drove and slept and painted, and just, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of it, it was a week of rain, and I was like, man, I don't want to sit here in this Walmart parking lot for a week in Walterboro, South Carolina. So I'm gonna go see my brother in Ohio. I unhooked, I locked everything up. I thought, no big deal. I'm 21 years old. So I go to Ohio for a week, come back, and on the 8 or 9 hour drive back, I got back at 12:10 in the morning, midnight. And at 12 o'clock midnight, some dudes hauled my trailer off with $50,000 of paint and equipment and brand new stripers. And,
you missed them by 10 minutes?
10 minutes, yeah. So
no way.
I don't know if God was protecting me from getting shot, or, I always you gotta what, I don't know what that's all about. But I mean, I guess ultimately I can tell you that I learned more lessons from losing it all. I think it's probably in my life now, I'm pretty, I hold life pretty loosely. I've been very blessed, but my wife has a really serious mold condition. And so we've had to move 3 times and get rid of everything we own and just, start over. So,
sure.
For me, life is not about worldly possessions, right? As a Jesus follower. So anyway, so back to, so I'm painting parking lots, and I went to work while my stuff was stolen. I went to work for the guy who I was doing this contract for.
Okay.
His name was Tab. And I
started the CVS contract.
So he had the CVS contract, and then I was under him, right?
Okay.
And I remember the first day I went on one of his job sites, his main guy Ray just was like, hey, you know how to drive that front end loader? And I was like, no, but I'll figure it out. And he's like, cool, move that pile of dirt to there. And so I did, and I started driving. I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like, I never had this kind of freedom, this kind of what's the word, autonomy, just to learn. And we were taking this parking lot that was dirt to doing all the underdrain and putting in sidewalks and getting ready to pave it. And I was like, man, this is really cool. Going from patching potholes to that, and so it kind of expanded my horizon to just this whole other world of wow. Like, and it wasn't that hard. I mean, it was hard. There's technicality in it, but I was like, man, I can do this. So I think, honestly, I think some of that, I took it back home to my dad. And I think there was just some, I'm kind of this young guy that wants to go. And my dad's kind of more in that, like, steady, maintain, slow down. And so we just butt heads a lot. And that's kind of the transition into, one year I just said, hey, Dad, if I'm going to move on. But if you want me to, buy you out, name the price, and I'll see if I can get the money. So this is kind of interesting because the SBA loan that we ended up getting, my wife and I remember thinking, and this is where when I hear people talk about debt, I just remember thinking, okay, so my payment was roughly, again, $500,000 loan, give or take a few $100,000, but I mean, it was a good sized loan for 21. I was 23 at the time. So, but I remember the payments, and then probably foolishly so, the payments to me were $3,000 a month. And I was like, $3,000 a month. I get all the equipment, I get all the contacts, and I knew the infrared was like, you'd make a couple grand a day just from one day of work. And I was like, okay, well, I can sell infrared, so I can cover, as long as I can go work a couple days selling, I know that I can cover the cost of this business loan, and the rest of it's just growth, right? So that's the beauty, I think, of an SBA loan. I think a lot of people don't realize maybe that, it's a 10-year, 5%, $500,000 loan for $3,000 a month, on your payments. That's killer.
How did you get that at 21 or 22? What age were you when you got that? Like, how did you get the backing for it?
Yeah, so kind of the bank that you banked with the longest period of time is always going to be your best go-to, right? So we had a credit union, Lake Trust. We're still with them, and I remember going to them and just telling them the story, telling them that first year before I'd left, I had actually ran the company, so we had doubled in size. Yeah.
Okay.
So I kind of took over management and delegation, and for that first year, we went from 200,000 in sales to 400,000, and
just in pothole repair.
And we were seal coating, and by this time, I think we were 6 years in, so we were seal coating, and let's see the timeline. If I was 18, 20, I think it was 23, so roughly 4 to 5 years in. That first year was like a half year.
Sure.
So we doubled in size. And I think that, that trend, they like that trajectory. They make, a bank that wants to give a loan is going to, figure out all the things that they can, make it. It's funny, when if they want that your kind of loan, they're on your team to help you make it look as cool and as big as, they can to the people that are going to actually, that's to the SBA.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyways, that came in. I'm trying to think where we at here. So what was your question?
So I was asking, how did you get the backing for that size of a loan? And you're kind of saying, it's because of the trajectory and the record you had with your father's company.
There was some changes that happened, right? We had about 4 or 5 years of 200,000 sales. It was kind of steady. It was providing a living for my dad, and it was providing a summer job for me. And so, I think that double in size was a big deal. And when we continued, and again, I think I would largely attribute to the freedom we had with this loan. We continued to double for the next 4 years. So we doubled from 400 to 800, 800 to 1.2, which isn't quite a double, but 1.2 to 3, and then 3 to, it's been a while since I ran through the metrics, but we ended up going up to 6 million. It was just, just dominoing every year. And at 6 million, I think that was 2000. The year that we hit 4.8 million was the year that this was another pivotal moment. So at 4.8 million, we had no idea what we were doing. I mean, I went to college for biblical counseling. I just love people, and I wanted to help people, and that's all I knew. And so it was like, Asphalt happened to be a way I could make some good money, right?
Really, that education really helped you out there, right?
Well, I think it did, actually. I think people, I don't know if you,
sure.
It totally is not applicable, but then it's like, oh my gosh, if you want to manage people at this point in Diamond's history, I'm blessed again to not, I don't do the work. I lead our sales team, but I do that because I want to. I want to grow it. But I've had people that led my sales team in the past, and I think that that the ability to connect with people and the ability to lead people and love people well. I think people want to follow that. I think that's I think that's definitely is a blessing and a help. So yeah, so in 2017 though, this is a really big year. Made some, and I'm really passionate about the mistakes we made, because I mean we almost lost it all, right? So I mean everything, we were riding cloud nine, just having fun. And in 2017, part of our issue was we didn't have any work in the wintertime. So I was committed to my guys to keep them on salary.
Okay.
But again, foolishly not having a dashboard or not knowing my costs and where I was bleeding. I think it was 150,000 a month just going out in the wintertime, no money coming in. Like, it's ridiculous.
It's not too sustainable.
No, it's not very sustainable. And then the other part of this is, again, there's going to the debt side of things. I had a huge line of credit. So I was using that to fund with a hopeful mentality that, you know, we still do have a South Carolina location. So I was like, man, we're going to get work down there. It's going to pick up here in January after Christmas. And it never did. So I just continued to write checks and continued to bleed. And in February, I think it was, my CFO came to me and said, hey, you know, we're 2 weeks away from, we can't make payroll. Right. And I was like, what? So at this point in time, God had been kind of setting up this relationship with now my mentor, part owner, silent 10%, and his name is Ron. And anyway, he's just been a tremendous blessing. His son Tom was my friend that I met down in South Carolina, and through a chain of events, we, I met him and kind of heard some of their story and how they had helped businesses turn around and their ability to do that. Got the call from my CFO, and then I was like, okay, maybe this is why God brought this person into my life. Like, it was kind of just one of those random relationships with a pretty, significant, influential person. And I'm like, man, I don't know why I know you. I don't know why you want to hang out. I don't know why we're, whatever, but maybe this is it. So ended up, opening up to Tom. Tom's like, you need to talk to my dad, Ron, talk to Ron. And then kind of from there was the beginning of, this mentorship, intense mentorship I'm still going on, but that first year was like, every night I would call at 5, and I felt like I was going into the boxing ring, it's like, he just told me how much of an idiot I was. And, but I just learned so much. So I think, it's kind of slowing down for a second there, but I think that was kind of the pivotal. We lost $1 million in 17. So, if you think you can't come back from that or it's over, it's never over. Yeah. But I'll tell you, there were some tears, there was some despair, what did we just do? Oh my God.
So 2 weeks out from not making payroll, what happened? Like, I'm on the edge of my seat today. Do you want to drag it out a little bit longer for the listener?
Yeah.
But
no, man, the story side of it is Ron looked at our financials and he said, Parker, you're bankrupt on paper. Yep. Totally upside down. I was like, okay, that's cool. And then he went on to tell me about how, I've done this with people. I've helped them walk through it. I can do that with you. This doesn't define who you are. You're Parker and Hope. This isn't who you, whatever. And I was like, kind of waiting for him to get done. I'm like, I'm not filing bankruptcy. So, what's the plan, right? And it was kind of weird. He flipped the switch and he's like, do you want to try to make this ship sail? And I was like, I want round 2, buddy. Put me back in the ring, Yeah. So he said, if you want to do it, he said, it's going to be hard, but I'll help you work up a plan. So basically we came back the next next day with every person on payroll, every person on salary, every fixed cost, every all the bleeding that was happening. What is it that you have to have? What is it you don't have to have? And at that point in time, again, it was largely salary. So we had to lay a ton of people off. I think I had 50 employees at that time. Okay. So I shouldn't say a ton of, it's all relative, but I think I went to 30 some people individually and said, hey, this is where we're at. I can't pay you right now. The winter time. I'm sorry.
Those people skills came in handy there for sure.
That was the most emotionally draining week of just talking to people I've ever had in my life. So that was part of the plan, was to, lay people off. The second part that I think is really critical, life skill is, and maybe this sounds horrible, but I called every person that I had a loan with, and I said, look, I want to pay you everything, but I can't pay you anything right now. And if I pay you anything, I'm going to screw somebody else. So all of my AP, all my people that I owed money to, I went to, and I just said, hey, listen, I'm going to pay you. I'm not going anywhere. But in order to do this, I have to, I need a few months here to get my feet back on the ground. Yeah. And dude, the love and the support from the people that I was open with, which was mostly everybody, was just so well received, so reciprocated. So many people told me like, we've been there before, we get it. Let's keep this updated, however we can help. And I just remember feeling like, how many people feel alone in this when they're going through it and they don't realize you just have to ask.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and the fact that you're
people
open,
want to
right?
help.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the fact that you're open, built some trust.
Yeah.
I'm sure with them, and they're like, okay, well, if he's going to tell us that he's basically dead now, then he'll probably come through with it.
And I'm sure there's part of that too. That's like, if we push him too much, like he doesn't have any money. If he's being honest, he doesn't have any money. So, yeah, I mean, people were great. So that was a huge, that bleeding stopped. It probably took us, I want to say, and I could be wrong on this, but I think it was 8 to 10 months, and we had everybody caught back up and paid.
Yeah.
It might have been closer to a year, but
what about the people you laid off?
So I remember asking Ron, and he said, well, you're gonna find out who's really with you, right? And so we lost a number of guys that at the time felt like invaluable, like I couldn't lose them and keep running the business. And we did. We kept going. Other people stepped up, and the people that stuck with me in our core team, still with me today and going, right? So it's and you have something special because of that, right? There's something special about
you've been through the fire together.
Yeah. So what else? I think that was the biggest plan. I mean, you unload your boat, right? You just get all of your weight off, and then you can kind of sell. We had 700,000 in AR that was we'd done some big jobs at the end of the year that was slowly coming in. So it's interesting when nothing's going out and you got 700,000 coming in, all of a sudden, we have some options. Don't go buy a new house, but man, okay, we can float a low payroll, and we can limp back into our season, and we did. So, so then from there, I would say, for people that are listening, I think, the number one biggest to me, there's two things that I took away from all that I think are really key. So one is have a dashboard. If you don't know what a dashboard is, Google it, ask Lewis, right? Or ask me, whatever. But, know your numbers, your KPI, your key performance indicators. I don't even know if KPIs is the correct way to say what I have, but I have a dashboard that shows my cash in, my deposits, my AR, my AP, my credit card balances, because we still use those and pay them off, but we use those to get the points, right? That's always fun.
Yeah.
I have production, I have sales, I have all these numbers to tell me, did I hit my goals this week? And it's a daily report. I have one person in my company that's designated to collect it all from all the different departments and say, hey, I need your production number for today. Hey, and hopefully they send it in, right? But you get all these numbers in. I get it every day at 4:35, and I review it. And it's basically, and the key thing for me is this, what I call the spread. And it's my AR, my collectibles, minus what I owe, minus, or plus cash in my bank account, minus credit card, all these adding and subtracting. And basically at the end of the day, when we lost $1 million, we ended up if I had have known, we were 200,000 upside down on our AR and AP. Like, how did I not see that coming?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you should never, but by getting that dashboard every day, it's kind of like the stocks, and you kind of get this ticker on like how, when it's trending down. And I never saw the signs because I didn't have anything to, there was no alert signal set up. So,
So is that a custom thing that you set up, or is it kind of just like an Excel sheet?
It's Excel. Yeah. We have an Excel sheet with some smart formulas and, whatever, right? It's
basically plug in the numbers basic. And it lays out exactly where you are.
Yep. Super. I mean, anybody can do that, right? I mean, it's super basic, but probably one of the most valuable things you can do if you want to take on debt and not do what I did, like have a dashboard. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like don't take another loan on your line of credit. Like I didn't even know. So I was just pulling money. And again, some of it was just young and super stupid, but
well, when you have so much coming in, it seems like you're invincible, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So that leads into the other part of this that's huge is the margin, right? So I was taught off of the school of square foot pricing. So if you're in seal coating or line striping, looking back now, I'm like, this is crazy, but I thought $2 a line for a restripe was great. $4 a line for a brand new lot was great. 8 cents for seal coating was pretty good. 10 cents was really good, and 12 cents was like, man, I don't know, that might be too much. There was no basis to that. It was just a feeling of what I'd kind of heard people were charging. Well, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So when I always get a little worried when I hear people say, I'm in this price range. It's like, well, if you're, here's a warning signal. If you're a guy that goes out into a parking lot and you're talking to the customer and you can say, I think this is about $8,000, you're not costing correctly. Like,
right.
and so now at this point in Diamond, I have estimators and sales guys that buffer me because I love to wing it. I love to be like, I know how much that's going to cost. And they know the process is you don't do that. The process is you cost it, you put it into our system, or we have an Excel. We use Excel right now. We're building an app in the meantime, but you know, you punch in your distance, your how many guys are going to go, how many moves you're going to have for travel, and then you go down and you have your efficiencies and how long it's going to take to tear this out, how long it's going to take to install it, how long, how dirty is the parking lot, how many, you know, are the cracks, do they have grass in them? I mean, all of these things that, like, oh, cracks are not cracks. Like,
Yeah.
when you have to tear weed bushes growing out of cracks, you know, you might want to charge like triple, you know, like,
yeah.
but
So
just saying
what,
I'm going to charge triple. Go ahead.
So how do you, like, for someone who's starting out, how can, you know, obviously you put time and energy, and you're kind of looking at the numbers of what it's cost you in the past, and you're factoring that all in. For someone who's like first or second year of business in either seal coating or striping, what would you say is kind of good information for them? Something to kind of at least give them some sort of a profit estimation.
Yeah. So it's actually a lot easier on a smaller scale. The only problem on a smaller scale is you're the one doing it all. So I know it doesn't feel easier, but audits, we audit every job now. I don't know, we do, you know, 1,000 different work orders or something a year or whatever, right? So it's a lot of audits. When you're small and you're doing, you know, 3 jobs a week, you write down on a piece of paper, I estimate this is going to take 5 hours to demo, and you also have to have like a time tracking app. That's huge, right?
Yep.
And it's a pain in the butt because all my guys, I don't do it, but I feel for my guys. You know, when they're out there in the field and they're doing demo, when they get out of their truck, they have to switch their time from drive time to clean time, and when they're done cleaning, they have to cut in time and to spray time. But holy crap, we've done this for 3 years now, and the data that we have to say, so that's kind of on a grand level, I would say, or you know, more whatever. On a basic level, I would just say, put in your drive time, put in your, you know, figure out what your biggest key costs are, and then audit it. So when you get back to the shop the next day, have 1 day a week where you have a couple hours carved out that's your time to just dig into the 3 or 4 or 5, 10 jobs you did that week, and then see, okay, this is what I thought it was going to take 5. Timesheet says 10. Okay, holy crap, what was the discrepancy there? And then adjust.
You're back to $8 an hour again if you're at that level, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I would say auditing. I think auditing is and it sounds like a really, really like scary word. Scary audits, but it's just checking your estimates with actuals. Like, are you right?
So Parker, what when you say time app, do you have one that you recommend that's, you know?
We use T-sheets.
Okay.
We've there's so many out there. Hope handles a lot of that, my wife. And so I would say that, you know, if she said T-sheets is the one, there's probably specific reasons for for our business that we needed, like syncing with QuickBooks or just the different kind of reports that she wanted to see. So there's a ton of them out there, but
that's probably a paid one then.
Yeah, I think one of the T-sheets is paid, and it allows for approvals, right, which is a big deal. So I have different levels of approval. So I have crew leaders approving crew members, and then I have my operations director approving crew managers, crew leaders. So there's just kind of this checks and accountability on making sure that everybody's holding people accountable.
But I mean, if you even just a note on your phone, taking stock of when you start and when you stop. Another thing too is a lot of people don't take into account the time they spend estimating either.
Right.
So they're like, oh, I made $2,000 on this job today, but you know, you spent 2 hours measuring it out, marking it, gathering paint, you know, driving. You might have another hour in driving time, right? So if you're not taking that into account, I mean, I imagine you guys do all of that as well, right? To make sure that you're making money on the whole.
Well, that's our overhead. We call that overhead. I mean, that's just simply that falls into that bucket that just every job, to run Diamond requires estimating and all that. But yeah, I think you're exactly right. That I think most people want to. I think this is I'm the owner, so I get this. Like, I want to inflate my numbers. I want to feel good about I made $2,000. I love it when I can say I made $2,000 an hour or $2,000 a day or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the reality is I look at the audit and it tells me, dude, like it was not that good. You know, you
paid 3 guys to do that $2,000 a day, right? Like, or an hour, right?
Yeah. So and that was, I don't know have you heard of EOS?
I don't think I have.
Man, dude, you got to check it out. So EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, The book is called Traction. This is going to change your life, and I think it's going to change a lot of people. So 3 years ago, Diamond was Parker quoting parking lots, Parker running scheduling jobs. Maybe it was 4 years ago now. I mean, dude, you take the owner mindset into scheduling, and you're going to screw all your employees, right? Because I'm like, oh, they can do that in like 2 hours, and then I could sneak in another paving. Yeah, customer will be there, 4 o'clock. It'll only take like an hour, and then my guys are out until like 2 in the morning, because I'm just like, I'm an optimist, right? So that's probably part of it too. If you're not an optimist, maybe it's not as bad. But,
that's why you're leading the company, right? Because
that's right. Exactly. So
it's
EOS
called
is
Traction, and
yes.
it lays out this system. Okay.
So in 17, funny enough, when everything was going downhill for us and we didn't know it, EOS, I went to a John Maxwell conference, and there was somebody there that was like, you need to check out EOS. And then I got home and I called a good friend. I was talking like, what book would you recommend? What are you reading right now? And he said EOS Traction. And I was like, it was one of those, like, within a week I'd heard about this. And I was like, okay, I'll take notes. So I bought the book, read the book, and I was like, this is the most practical business book I've ever read in my life. Nice. And EOS, I would say, like 85 to 90% of the reason why Diamond functions now off of processes and went from, if you're familiar with Robert Kiyosaki's quadrants, and again, I mentioned this in one of my posts, but people say, oh, I want to have my own business. Well, most people that do that just end up working for themselves. Like they're the specialists, they're the self-employed guy. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just realize that you're still going to grind for every hour, every dollar that you work for is there's an hour, an allotment of time that made that dollar. And so the B quadrant, if you want to go from S to B, I'm telling you right now, EOS is your ticket. EOS sets up the process for how to have department heads, have accountability charts, have weekly meetings, what you do in those meetings, how do you have reviews, when do you have reviews, what do you talk about in your reviews, what's your sales process, what's your target market. Like there's the vision part of it, there's the traction part of it, which is your accountability, and then there's your data, your people, your processes, and your something. I think there's like 8 pieces to the pie. Yep. They say if you have all of these pieces running strong, your business is going to be, firing in all cylinders, right?
Nice. That's awesome. So, I'm definitely going to check that out. And, it sounds like that has made a big difference for you. So I think other people should as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, obviously today, what things are you guys working on to improve? And, because it's a continual process, right? So what areas are you guys focusing on right now?
Man, yeah. Some of the areas I'm most excited about are, my brother is a software developer for Uber. And so him and I have for years talked about doing this, but just, again, part of it was I was so sucked into the business. He's like, dude, I get on the phone with you and you have to like take 5 of the phone calls. Like, this is not the right time, but my life has calmed down a lot more structured. So, we are in the process of developing an app. That's not just an app. It's basically the vision for it is insane. When you think of Uber and how, taking that mindset of cars and automation and people even working for you, we're basically building an app, and we're in the process of building an app that's going to use drones to fly and gather the data and allow us to really, as far as I'm concerned, blow up exponentially when you don't have to have a salesman on the ground. I can go quit a parking lot in California with this technology, right? And never have to leave. The drone flies it and sends me a report back. And so we're working on an app that's going to, weave that report that you get into an estimate that within, minutes you could send out to a customer and say, hey, here's a comprehensive look at your parking lot. Wow. I think that's definitely, I think 3 years out, 4 years out. That's my optimistic guess. So maybe it's 5 years out,
Yeah.
But at least we're starting, right? So I think it's a massive AI in our world right now is such a huge thing. Drones are, they were a really big thing, I think, and then I think they maybe died off a little bit.
The novelty of them.
The novelty has died off, but the functionality is still it's going crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the app is a big part of big innovation we're doing right now. And we had a back end team that would put together our estimates and our maps for our parking lots, and we ended up moving that back end team into full-time automation and technology. So we have an automation technology department that's basically what they do, and with the goal of getting an app with the ability to make maps and estimates so that we can supplement their time. And we're close to that. We're still, there's still work to be done, but
That's
What
awesome.
else? What else?
So how many guys and girls do you have on the team right now? Like how many are in Diamond Solutions right now?
Yeah, it fluctuates obviously as you go through. We don't have, and everybody, we don't keep on everybody in the wintertime anymore. So we snowplow, and we've used snowplowing as kind of a way to ramp that, to keep it steady. But I think in peak season we have around 40-ish people, and again, it's it's up and down. And then in the off season we die back down to about 25.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
Phoenix 2021. My wife's gonna kill me, but I keep telling her it's gonna happen. So Phoenix 2021 is on the horizon. I was next year, the year after. South Carolina has just been tremendous for us, having that year-round seasonality, and then you have COVID that hit, and Michigan got locked down, and Greenville was still largely open. So it was like, wow, we were able to continue to work. So that diversification across markets, across time zones, across temperatures, those things are really, really beneficial. And in fact, Phoenix paves more, from what I understand, from October to April, right? Because people are falling over, dying, in the 140-degree heat or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's it's a strategic move to keep revenue coming in year round.
That's amazing.
In a very seasonal industry. So those are the two biggest things. Obviously, in Phoenix has not happened yet, so it's a lot of talk, a lot of hype. But
you mean like setting up an office there, basically?
Yeah, I would just send a team, a small team down, and we start just like we did in South Carolina. And I don't know that we have a salesman and somebody to run the crew, and we start off and let it go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Very cool. Well, I feel like we've covered a lot here. Actually, I've been taking notes for myself.
Cool.
But maybe you can finish off by one or two things that you would say to the 1 or 2 year old businesses. I know you're interacting with a couple there in the group, but what would be the biggest things that you would tell them to focus on right now to get right so that they can scale and grow properly?
That's a really good question. It's a tough one. So there's so many things.
Yeah, or just something.
Read EOS. Like seriously, it applies to the 2-man company, and it applies to the I think they go up to 50 million. Is like they're kind of the 0 to 50 million, or maybe it's 10 to 50 million. I don't know. It's not 10, but it's so applicable if you can just pick a few of the things out. And probably one of my favorite things in there is to talk about right people, right seats. So the Jim Collins, it gives life to that. Jim Collins said, get the right people on your bus. And I'm like, well, what the frick is a bus?
Yeah.
EOS takes it, and they're like, well, your bus is your core values, and the seats are your positions within your company. So
love it.
And then it talks about GWC. Did the person get it, want it, or have the capacity to do it? Like, it really breaks it down into this. Like, there were so many people that we had. I'm like, gee, they get it. Do they want it? No.
Yeah.
Do they have the capacity? Maybe. They're off, right? And or they're not off, they're in the wrong seat. So that kind of metric just kind of gives clarity to why you're making decisions, instead of just, I feel like this person isn't working out well. And then the other thing I would say maybe is just don't be afraid to I don't know if it would be debt. I mean, at this point, actually, maybe I heard a lot of this going on out there, and we didn't touch on this, but payment terms. Dude, like, as somebody who's in that middle spot, if I have the big guys that like to flex their muscles with me and tell me what they're going to do, and I try to push back and sometimes win, sometimes lose. And to the other people that I'm like, I remember for me back in the day, I felt, in residential, it's different. I think you get paid like when the job's done, they hand you a check, like walking out, like that's normal. And in commercial, it's like net 30, net 45, net 60. So in commercial, for me to go up to somebody and be like, hey, can you pay me in full when the job's done, felt kind of weird. Or to ask for half down, it's not weird though. So if anybody's thinking that, I guess that maybe my thing is, as far as cash flow. When I hear people say I never have any money in my bank account, I'm like, well, then you need to collect better, right? You gotta get money down. But then if you have half down, but you're not charging the right markup, we didn't talk about that either. But having the right markup on your product, 20% is not enough, by the way. You will be in a hamster wheel forever at 20%, unless you're a huge national that has 2% overhead and they're doing 100 million. And that's, you got to understand that 100 million, 20% is great. But at 500,000, 500,000, 20% feels good. But everybody that I hear that they're making that kind of money and they think that they're doing good, I ask them, when did they pay themselves?
Right.
Because that 100,000 on that 20% that they made, that was their salary. I'm talking about paying yourself $100,000, which is what you should get, by the way, right? For, or, 50 to 100, right? For running your business. And then making, another 10% on top of that. That's just business money. So
to grow the company and keep moving forward. Yeah.
So find somebody, create the correct markups, have the correct payment terms, have the dashboards to know. It's just like kind of this, it's more than just one thing, but I think if you can get a few key things, maybe there's 3 to 5 of them, right? But if you get those kind of that collections, money in, money out, you're going to find out that if you price correctly, you're not going to win as many jobs. Again, if you think you're 80% close rate, some people I've heard that I respect, more power to them. And I'll learn from those guys and, kind of questionably go, how are you doing that? 80% close rate on the correct margin is crazy.
Yeah.
But I find that 30 to 40% is about what you should expect at to me, 40% to 60% is the range of, and we've dipped down into the 30s on large jobs. So
sure.
Yeah. There's understanding that for your industry and where you're at is critical.
So EUS is kind of the biggest takeaway though. Get that under your belt.
I would say that go retraction, dude. You'll be so excited.
I'm gonna buy it literally as soon as we get off this call.
It's so good. It's so good. They have, I think, 3 or 4 other books to help. They have the Interaction, they have the Visionary, and the Integrator is what they call it, the general manager. So Hope is our general manager, and I'm the visionary. So she kind of is she takes my ideas and she tells me I'm stupid or that's a good one, and then she rolls it out to the department heads and says, this is what we're going to do, and then she holds them accountable for doing it. So they have a book that's just on that relationship called Rocket Fuel.
I'm at the point where I have a lot of ideas, but I'm not a great implementer, so I need someone who can kind of take that. So I'm actually looking for someone to do that as well.
That's huge.
Getting into that book, I think will,
that's awesome,
change my life as well. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Keep me updated on it. I'm always excited to hear. That's one of those for me. I remember it's just like light bulbs started turning on how to do it. So
that's amazing. Very cool. Well, I probably have to go here soon, and I imagine you're busy as well. I appreciate you coming on here. What I usually do is we just wrap up off mic here once I end the recording, but I really appreciate your time, Parker. And I think you certainly brought a lot of value for me, and I'm sure it's added some value for people who are listening. And I'd love to have you on to talk more about markups and kind of dive into some of the other stuff too, maybe down the road as well. So awesome. Appreciate it. And
thanks, brother.
We'll finish up here off mic. Cheers.
Okay, sounds good.